Anyway, I'm really happy to be here with this absolutely bright and shiny and delightful and loving group this morning, and on this beautiful October morning. And I am a bit partial to October because it's my birthday month, not till the 30th, so I have to celebrate all month, right? And then what occurs that next day after my birthday? Halloween. I heard little ones. Thank you. Got some volume over there. Yes, Halloween. And usually that inspires lots of fun activities. And yet I thought, okay, I'm speaking on surrendering. That usually invokes terror or inhibitions or concerns. It doesn't usually instill a fun idea in somebody. We may change that by the time we're done. So I thought, what could I do, maybe with the nod to Halloween, and what could I do to just kind of add a little bit of fun? So I looked in my closet and I'm not someone who has a bunch of costumes, but I just looked at what was there and I said, sparkles. I grabbed everything sparkly, and feather. I grabbed a feather and went, so a little nod to a flapper. And I thought, if that can give you a giggle, then maybe you'll realize that it won't be too scary today to talk about surrender. And I have to give Bob kudos. First thing he said, you're a flapper girl. Anyway, when I'm scheduled to speak, I really like to ask what the CSL national theme is for the month and for the week. And let me put this over there. And while you're not required to incorporate that in your talk, I always like to check on it, and it's nice because if it has a nice little flow into it, I like to do that. And what I found out was that the theme was paradox, playing with paradox. And I have to tell you, usually I get a pretty quick hit on what I'm going to be speaking about with some content coming in, you know? I got nothing. Not that I don't know what paradox is. I've used the word many times for situations, but I made the mistake of really diving in and looking it up, and it's deep. There are deep, deep levels. And I went, you know, I think I'm going to keep with one of the simpler explanations in a little while and let someone else do those deep dives. But what I wanted to mention is how I came up with a theme when I said it just wasn't coming to me. I have a very dear friend, and I should say, I got the timing. Hazel was patiently waiting for a topic, and like 10 days later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do something. I need to get this to Hazel. And so I happened to be in conversation with a very good friend of mine, actually the very friend that introduced me to Science of Mind nearly 40 years ago. So we go way back, and we go back with Science of Mind. Oh, is that my feather or my hair? The downside of being tall, I know you're aware of that. So anyway, we were conversing. She had a situation in her life that's been going on for years, and it's just been such a challenge. And she had recently heard that it had to go to another panel, and so it meant waiting, more waiting, after literally years of waiting. But what I know, and what she said is, I'm just going to trust it to Spirit. I'm just going to let it go. I can't do a thing about it. It's out of my hands. And I just smiled. We were on the phone, but I mean, I was just so tickled because she did introduce me to Science of Mind, and we started getting involved with it about the same time. But as I went on through classes for practitioner and minister, she also was diving more in and getting to know more about it. And so she and I talk about treat all the time. We talk several times in the week to see what's going on, how we can support and everything. So she's explaining this and telling me how she'd let that go. And I was so proud of her because in the early years, before we knew too much about treatment, things would go down. She's very type A. She likes to get things done and get them done now. And she would say, I'm in limbo. no one can make up their mind. This can't go that way. I can't do it until they do that. And so we started coining it limbo land, that she was yet again in limbo land. And we would laugh because she hated any pause between action. But as I said, it's been nearly 40 years. And I have to say, we've both grown a lot. And so I'm just so proud of her. And while we were talking, we were also espousing the benefits of getting comfortable with surrender. And, you know, those of you who are familiar with science of mind treatment or our style of affirmative prayer, release is that last step. Surrendering it to the universe, to a divine plan, to something even better than you could have ever imagined. And that's a surrender that we may not always look at it that way, but that is indeed what we're doing. I know early on, it's hard to say, I'm just going to let it go. You're kidding, right? I've got to do something. But because often when we come to treatment, it's for issues, it's for problems, and things that we want to resolve. And it can be for good things. It can be for anything across the board. Any practitioner will tell you that. A wide array. Because life presents us with a wide array of fun, sadness, opportunities for growth. Excuse me, I'm going to have to take a sip. Stay hydrated. So in looking at the way treatment is so constant and such a wonderful tool, I think in these teachings we gather many spiritual tools, and I just imagine them in my pocket, and they're just always with me. Once you get into the teachings and you're in the classes and you're practicing even more, working with practitioners, maybe becoming a practitioner, they just are always a part of you. And it's always interesting, too, to find a new spiritual tool and say, okay, I'm going to put this one to work. But in the beginning, it's not so easy always, because when people say, don't worry about it, let's treat, let's do this, you've got to focus what you want, and let's just release it to the divine mind, to universal action. That can be sort of horrifying for some, that kind of Halloweenish for some people, you know, because we are so geared up to make it happen and to make it not happen, and to do that now, right now, on my timeline. Have you ever noticed that's not really the way the universe works? Just asking. So surrender really is a practice, and I would even say that it's a spiritual tool that you can use. You can let it become a habit with your activities and your issues, and when you realize the freeing power of surrender, you're not going to let it go, and it definitely is a part of you. I kind of thought a lot about forgiveness when I was working on this too, because for me, they're both equally powerful. We don't give anything away. We gain freedom from worry, from anger, from resentment, from am I good enough? Is it big enough? Is it going to work? What we do when we reach a point of surrender is we are letting go of the false notion we had any control over anything in the first place. I don't know. Okay, I was a control freak, what can I say? Maybe I still am to a degree, but I've certainly improved through the years. And I think a lot of people, at least in our younger life, we want it. And a lot of it may have to do with busy office jobs. We have deadlines. We have accountability. We have projects. We have teams. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But when we get into our personal life and our personal way of being, we start to say, I've been trying to make this happen many different ways for a very long time. And sometimes you think, oh, you're in here on a Sunday, and you say, well, maybe I should go talk to one of those practitioners. So it's like the first step, and sometimes it can feel scary, but it'll be the first step to a lot of wonderful steps for the rest of your life. I can assure you that. So I do want to mention that in your program, you got a handout that says, I surrender. I brought one up to hold it up, and I clipped it down so well I can't get it. There we go. And it's pretty much like in treatment style, but I wanted you to go home with something that you could think about. We're not done yet. But oh, I'm sorry. And also they said angle it usually works better. See, I say I want to do movement. I forgot to mention I do a lot of this. So anyway, this is an opportunity. I just want to plant a seed that while we're talking and while you're here and when you hear more beautiful music and the prayer, that you ask yourself if there's something on your heart that's giving you some issues on your mind, on your heart, that you are looking for a right solution to, that you are looking for the right person, place, or event to make it better, that you were looking for resolution of some sort. And maybe it's been hard to even think about letting go of trying to figure it out, because maybe you've been presented with a half a dozen things, or you've researched to the point where your eyes are rolling into the back of your head because you just don't know. That's the time. If you're there, I mean, earlier is better as you get more used to it, but if you're there, that's the time you want to really set up a practitioner appointment would be wonderful. Get back into your own practice if you've slipped away from doing treatment for yourself, and say, I'm going to do this with God. I'm going to do this with Spirit. I may have 112 ideas here about possible solutions, but Spirit has so many more that we don't even imagine. And I've seen how it has worked through so much of my life that it's an absolute blessing always. And surrender is a blessing cleverly disguised. So when you look at it that way, it doesn't sound so scary. I wanted to switch a little bit over here and say, where shall we go with paradox? I took a simple explanation of paradox, and that's what I thought was simple, rather succinct. Paradox is a statement that is seemingly contradictory or opposed to common sense, and yet is perhaps true. And that's one definition. It can also be situations that seem diametrically opposed, but somehow they could both be true. So you're not in that either or thing, you are in that and thing, and can go somewhere with that. So I wanted to share one thing out of the paradox dive that I did, because this is the one that touched me the most. Let me back up first. Could we put the image on the screen, please? I ran across this recently, and I mean, I've seen this years and years and years ago, hadn't seen it for a long time. And it's a classic illustration that can be viewed as a young woman with a feather in her hat, or an older person. And they use this illustration to show that we all have this unique ability to imagine opposite or contradictory ideas at the same time. Our brain can do that. I see a lot of quizzical looks. Can everybody see both of them, or are you still searching for the other one? Okay. The first time I saw it, and the person next to me said, oh, I see that old woman. I'm going, I don't see an old woman. Anyway, there is a Dr. Arthur Rothenberg. He did a lot of research on this and said he studied the use of opposites in the creative process and identified a process of he terms Janusian thinking. And that was named after Janus, a Roman god who is often depicted as two faces, face on each side, facing opposite ways. But the idea that that capability was there. Here is my favorite statement. This is from physicist Niels Bohr. He discovered that if you hold opposites together, then you suspend your thought and your mind moves to a new level. The suspension of thought allows an intelligence beyond thought to act and create a new form. The swirling of opposites, I love that, the swirling of opposites creates the conditions for a new point of view to bubble free in your mind. I just thought that was a cool collection of phrases that gave us imagery. And so with treatment, that's why I thought the reason I came to the topic of let's talk about surrender, because I happen to love talking about surrender anyway, but also it is a paradox, treatment. Doing a treatment. Even surrender is paradox, because you've got your mind going about how to solve everything. What am I going to do? And maybe you have 5 things, but then something over here said, just let it go. Do nothing. Wait, isn't that inertia? Isn't that inaction? But we do it. And in that place and that space of letting it go, these springs of ideas bubble up and bring a multitude. They may bring you that one specific person or thing, may bring you a whole list sequentially, the person, the place, the timing, everything. And if you can learn that when you go see your practitioner, when you have some counseling and work with that if you trust it, if you have faith in that, you can go ahead and put Ernest Holmes up if you want, please. If you have faith in that, then you know that it's working. I love this quote from Ernest Holmes, our founder of Science of Mind. Stop trying, stop struggling. Begin to be calm, to trust in the higher laws of life. Even though you do not see them, they are still there. They are still there. Even if you think you're stuck in the mud, the sun is still shining somewhere, the land is dry somewhere, or you'll be taking a swim and washing it off in a lovely lake soon. And I want to mention that, I know she'll mention to you that they do have practitioners available after the after the service. Excuse me, I'm drying out again. So I just want to suggest that if you have an idea, what am I going to do? I'll never be able to complete that project. And you go to a practitioner about it, and they treat for you, and it includes everything that you're one with the infinite life, the infinite mind of God, that you are supported, and that right action is going to prevail. You are sort of participating in something paradoxical right there. You're letting it go and trusting, which is foundation, trusting that that is going to be effective for you, because it is. It's always there for you, and the right time for you as well. So they say the paradox of surrender is that the way to enhance your sense of self-control is to let go of control and surrender. There's a paradox right there. That is why they call it the paradox of surrender. You got to let it go and let it be and invite it and open it. So finally, we have one more from Ernest Holmes, our founder, who's this affirmation. I surrender all fear, doubt, or uncertainty and accept the gift of life today. Could we say that together once? I surrender all fear, doubt, or uncertainty and accept the gift of life today. And who means that? And so it is that can you do that? You can do that? Okay. So I see that can be your start if you happen to be a new person in the room, but I see mostly familiar faces, I think. So every time that you surrender, you really do get a bit more freedom from any fear, from any hassles, from any intimidation. And you know, usually that's not from someone else, it's from within. So surrendering and trusting helps us overcome that voice that likes to keep us in bondage as well. So I would like to suggest that when you take this home tonight, when I do the final treatment, the closing treatment, I'll allude to this surrender. I thought about even just reading it through in that. But I thought if you could just kind of get into it and go into your heart and say, is there one thing? Is there one thing that I'm willing to say, I release this to the universe. I surrender this to the God mind. I'm going to take a vacation from trying to make it work and trying to figure it out. I'm going to claim it as done. And when you say, and so it is after those treatments, that's what we're affirming. It's done. So I hope you will take those home. I hope you will give it a thought, feel something in there, and perhaps put it somewhere where you can see it and repeat it to yourself for the week or the month or however long you want, or use it for any other thing that comes up. So I thank you. Time. I know that, does it make sense? I just want to ask this last question. Those of you who are familiar with treatment, and just from the discussion, does it make sense that treatment is a form of paradox? That surrendering, letting go, when your mind is full of the other side of the coin, is a form of paradox? Then I guess what we're learning is we're all in it all day, every day anyway. So we just get to do what we want to do with it and not be bullied by what is going on in our life or our mind's eye. Okay, finally, in closing, this is a young man who lifted up a lot of hearts, and here he is with a little reminder for you all of us.
Every little thing is gonna be alright. I woke up this morning on my horizon. 3 little birds were on my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melody blowing true. And they said, this message is you. They said, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry
You can sing with
about a
us.
thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
Don't worry, because what? All right. And I just want to say, I saw his mama with him too. She said that he sings this song to himself just as a lullaby in the evening. He had his PJs on. And as COVID rolled around, they were talking, he was missing his aunties and his nana. And she said, well, what can we do because they couldn't see them, what can we do to make them feel better? So he sang it. This is like one of his favorites. And posted it for the family. And she said, I never dreamed it would go so viral. If I'd known that, I would have put something on him besides his pajamas and spruced him up a little bit. But I look at him, and with that smile and that heart, I don't think he needs a bit of sprucing. Okay. Well, let's take that into prayer and take a moment and just take a deep breath and relax. And know with me if you will, that there is one perfect presence, one life, one God. That life is my life. That life is each of our lives. And it is our life now. And we know that we have come together this morning to join in fellowship, in friendship, in love, in care, and in laughter and in joy. So we give thanks for this opportunity. We give thanks that all of us were called to be in this space at this time. We give thanks for this beautiful day and this beautiful surrounding that blesses us and enriches us. And I know that each of you share your light as you go forth, blessing and enriching, nourishing everyone and every living being with which you come in contact. And I claim right now that surrender is a new tool for each and every one of us, and that it is positive, it is productive, it is freeing. And I invite you to take that into your heart, to own it, and if you knew that already, amp it up a little bit. Share it with someone else so that they can be blessed by that gift that really does keep on giving. So I give thanks for this now. I claim this. I give thanks for all that we are blessed with in so very many ways as I release the claim of freedom from baggage with the opportunity to surrender for each and every one of us. and let it go into that perfect activity of God mind, returning to us in its perfect expression. And let's seal it, claim it, and close it together by saying, and so it is. Thank you.